Back to Miller. Oh, my goodness.
Herbert, sidearm sling, and it's a touchdown.
Tyrese Maxey.
Oh, good spin move by Filipowski for the news. Give him 9.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beef Up Front podcast here on Pick Swap Media. Your host, Ryan Coyle, joined alongside Kevin Cannon for our weekly show, NFL Big 5 Games of the Week 10 edition, where we will cover the top 5 games on the NFL schedule for the upcoming week. All our games this week on Sunday, coming off of Week 9, one of my best weeks of the season, 11-4 overall on the picks. 4-1 straight up, 3-2 against the spread, 4-1 on the over/under, 1-0 on my lock of the week, which was Eagles -3, 0-1 on my dog of the day, which was Seahawks money line. They got their ass kicked by the Ravens. Kev, you went 8-7 overall, 3-2 straight up, 3-2 against the spread, 2-3 over/under, 0-1 on your lock, which was the Falcons in that wild game, and then 0-1 on your dog with the Jets. Felt like they were kind of actually due for a loss. Too many people were on the Zach Wilson train for that one. But as we said at the beginning, we enter Week 10 now, and we're really starting to, playoff pictures coming into the fruition. Teams their buys are getting behind them. We got the Eagles and the Chiefs both on bye this week. So we're really starting to get into the thick of the season, Kev. But as always, welcome back, and how are we?
Great. Good to be back again.
All right. Before we get into this week's slate of games, we'll kind of touch on some big picture stuff as we're now into Week 10. Hard to believe, already November. But I guess if you had to say today, who would your two teams be in the Super Bowl going into Week 10?
Out of the NFC, I would go Birds. AFC, I'm going to go Ravens.
Yeah, that's the two teams I was kind of looking at as well. I just feel like it's going to be so hard to get a rematch. My pick at the beginning of the year was actually Bengals over the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and the Bengals are starting to come to life a little bit more. The Bills look completely dead. I wouldn't be shocked if they found themselves on the outside looking in come playoff time as well. And I just think for the NFC, it's going to be whoever winds up getting that 1 seed, as long as Jalen's knee stays healthy and there isn't anything crazy with that. If the Eagles get the 1 seed, I think that they should be in good position to go back. But they still have to take care of the business. They still have a bunch of tough games coming up, and the Cowboys, I think, showed on Sunday that they can step up. And the Cowboys, I don't think they get enough credit for how good they are at home. I think over the past 2 years, they're 11-1 at home. So it's very important to get that number 1 seed, get that bye, get that division title, and make everything come back through Philadelphia. But based off what the Ravens have been playing, it's hard to pick against them as well. Chiefs are always going to be right up there. The defenses look great. The Dolphins, I think we're seeing look more and more fraudulent. But there's a few teams that we're going to touch on this week where I think we could see what kind of direction they're going in. So we're actually going to start off with two teams that are up there in terms of Super Bowl contention right now, and that's the 49ers at 5-3. They're not far behind the Eagles in terms of the odds to win the NFC. At the Jaguars, who are 6-2, the Jaguars have a very realistic chance, I think, to get the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. Neither of us really even mentioned them. But this is a 1 o'clock kickoff on Fox. The 49ers are actually a 3-point road favorite here in Jacksonville, traveling from West Coast to East Coast, over under 44.5. And this is a game where both teams are coming off the bye. So, Kev, do you think the 49ers can get back on track after a 3-game losing streak heading into the bye?
Yeah, I think they do here, winning 31-21, so covering the 3 points over 44.5, hitting both teams like you just touched on, coming off the bye. But I think it was way more important for the Niners to get that bye. Ton of injuries coming into that week, and it looks like they're finally getting healthy there. The Jags are coming in hot, though. The Niners obviously very cold, 3-game losing skid before the bye. But I think the Niners, those 3 games, injuries did play a big part in those. Purdy didn't look great, but I think we can acknowledge that he probably does need a lot of talent around him to be successful. But that good for him. He has arguably one of the most talented teams in the league. And Trent Williams and Debo should be back this week. The Niners also, before the trade deadline, went out and got Chase Young, which I think is a major addition to the defense and the defensive line there. He's not going to have much focus on him with Bosa, Hargrave, and the other players they have there. I think the Niners defense has a pretty dominant day here, and the offense just feeds off of that. I still think the Jags are a good team, but I think the Niners are just on a different level than them.
Yeah, this is kind of an eye-popping spread to me. As we touched on, the 49ers are on a 3-game losing streak heading into this one. Jaguars are 6-2, 5-game win streak coming off a bye themselves. It's one of those where it feels like Vegas is begging everyone to take the Jaguars here, especially as the home dog. So I'm going to go away from that trap line, and I'm actually going to take the Niners here. I'm going to go back to my reasoning in this one, why I thought heading into the bye, the 49ers would have beat the Bengals a few weeks back, because I didn't believe that they would lose 3 in a row, and I definitely don't think they're going to lose 4 in a row. So I'm going to take them on the road here. As you said, should be getting Debo, Trent Williams back. Those are 2 of their best players on the team, obviously. That's going to make a major addition to the offense. And if the 49ers lose this game, I think, as we kind of touched on with the Cowboys and the Eagles at the beginning, I think the 49ers' chance at the 1 seed would pretty much go out the window. There'll be 3 games back of Philly, who's on the bye, and the 49ers still have to go to Philadelphia as well. And the Seahawks are still fighting for the division too. So this is a must-win spot, I think, for the 49ers if they want to get that number 1 seed and avoid a potential trip back to Lincoln Financial Field for the NFC Championship again. Seeing a lot of pressure on them for a team with Super Bowl expectations. Big spot. I think they're going to find a way to come up on the road here. And Vegas cleans up on this trap game, except for the beef up front listeners, both of us taking the 49ers. So I'm going to go Niners 24, Jags 20. So I'll go Niners -3 in the under of 44.5. Second game of the week, we go to the AFC North now. The Browns at 5-3 at the Ravens, 7-2, coming off of that ass kicking against the Seahawks. A 1 o'clock kickoff on Fox. Ravens are a 6-point favorite, and the over-under is 38.5.
Yeah, the Ravens' defense has been pretty dominant this year. The offense is also starting to find its rhythm now. The Browns' defense has also been very, very good this year, but their offense just has not been there. Deshaun Watson missed a couple of weeks due to a super weird injury. Still not exactly sure what was going on there. He still doesn't look completely healthy or back, and he's also just never looked great in a Browns uniform compared to how he was back in Houston. The defenses here are pretty comparable, so I think they almost cancel each other out. So that just leaves a pretty big advantage to the Ravens, who clearly have the superior offense. Currently, Baltimore is converting 45% of their third downs, which is good for 6th in the league. Meanwhile, the Browns are only converting 32% of their third downs, which is good for 31st in the league. We always hear people talk about how important it is to convert on third downs, and it can be a massive indicator to the success of a team. Both defenses are going to be able to impose their will a little bit, get the other team into third downs, but I think the Ravens are going to be able to convert more, and I just trust them more not to turn the ball over as well.
Yeah, what we talked about kind of at the beginning with both of us liking the Ravens and the Eagles right now to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, the Eagles have the best record in the league, but I think just domination-wise, the Ravens might be the best team in the NFL as we head into Week 10. I mean, serious ass kicking, as we talked about, in that win over the Seahawks. That's a big-time statement win. I mean, they defeated the Lions and the Seahawks by a combined score of 75-9, and those are 2 of the better teams in the entire NFC. So this team is looking better and better as we go, getting more adjusted to their new offensive coordinator in Tom Monken. This is just a team that is just looking more and more comfortable. They scored 24 or more over their 4-game winning streak that they're currently on. And they already played this Browns team in week 4 and won 28-3, but that was with DTR starting. So as you're saying, Deshaun slated to come back. He had a solid day last week going for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns, but that's against the Cardinals, as you were talking about, not really saying much. So can he show up and performing against one of the top teams in the league and be, the difference maker that the Browns thought they were getting when they traded away Baker Mayfield and brought in Deshaun Watson? Because I think you could probably make the argument that Baker Mayfield was a better quarterback for them than Deshaun Watson's been. I mean, it doesn't look like Baker Mayfield is going to be the long-term quarterback for any team, but you're paying Deshaun Watson $240 million guaranteed and all those draft picks that they gave up for him. I think that they expected more from him. And if he's able to come out here on the road at the Ravens and get a win, that's going to give the fan base and the front office, I think, a lot more faith in this guy going forward. But I just don't think that you can count on him to be that type of player right now. I mean, the Browns are 1-3 this season when they've allowed 20 or more, and the Ravens are 7-0 when they've scored 20 or more. So I think this is a spot where the Ravens defense has been that good, as you were touching on, And the Browns defense has been kind of slipping up a little bit after some hot starts, and they haven't proven to be a good enough offense yet. I think the Ravens, just the way that they're clicking right now, the confidence that they're playing with, I think it's going to be too much for the Browns to overcome. So I'm going to take the Ravens to win this one and to cover. I just don't trust Deshaun Watson yet, and I don't know if he's ever going to be the quarterback that we expected him to be in Cleveland, and what we used to see at Clemson and Houston from him. So I'm going to take the Ravens, actually the exact same score as you. I'm going to go Ravens 24, Browns 13. So Ravens -6 in the under of 38.5. Third game of the week. This one could be a big one come NFC wildcard, tiebreaker time down the stretch, with the 5-4 Saints at the 5-4 Vikings. 1 o'clock kickoff on Fox. The Saints are a 2.5-point favorite. Over-under sits at 40.5 in this game.
I'm going Saints 21, Vikings 20. So the Vikings covering the 2.5 over a 40.5 hidden. I think the Vikings performance last year was super cool, super great for Josh Dobbs, but I think it was more of a one-hit wonder, lightning in a bottle type scenario. I'm not expecting Josh Dobbs to now come into this week and just light the Saints up. He played very well last week, making plays everywhere with his feet and legs. I'm just going to ride with Derek Carr and Taysom Hill here, who has been getting a lot more touches as of late, and he seems to actually really be improving the Saints' offense. I think the Saints need to continue to push the ball down the field more, though, and take some chances. Carr has the ability, has a great deep ball, and they also do have a ton of weapons on offense with Kamara and Olave on the outside. It's just really hard for me to buy into the Vikings here, but maybe they can regain some of their luck that they had last year and win all those super close games.
Yeah, you kind of touched on it, but I mean, just what a story by Josh Dobbs. If I'm sure that you've seen videos or read stuff throughout the early portion of this week, but he didn't even know the plays. He was literally asking guys in the huddle, and to find a way to go out there and get a win, that's a huge testament to him. But like you're saying, I don't know if it's really going to be a sustainable thing. And this Vikings team started out 1-4, but now they're 5-4, right in the hunt for the playoffs. If the playoffs started today, they would be the 7th and final team in the NFC playoffs. So can Josh Dobbs kind of carry this magic into the playoffs? I'm not really sure. I mean, people are talking about him like he's some fantastic quarterback. He was still playing with the Cardinals, and they traded him away for a reason. I mean, obviously the Cardinals came into the year with probably the lowest expectations out of any team in the league, but let's not act like Josh Dobbs is the second coming of Peyton Manning or something out there. He's still a average marginal quarterback at best. And the Saints, on the other hand, sitting at 5-4, first in the NFC South. I think they're playing their best ball right now and really starting to get hot. 4th seed in the NFC playoffs as of today. After a sluggish start to the season on offense, so the Saints have gotten moving a little bit. They've scored 24 or more in 3 straight games. They've gone 2-1 over that span. And the Vikings have just been playing with sort of an edge and confidence. And with the Dobbs juice, I think this should be a pretty fun and exciting game. But Derek Carr, I think, is looking more comfortable, and I think he's going to be the difference in this one over Josh Dobbs. He's thrown for 300 yards in 3 of his last 4 games. Taysom Hill, you kind of touched on it, but he's been a legit weapon in this offense, and I think they're trending up and are a better team than this Vikings team simply with Josh Dobbs playing quarterback. So I'm going to take the Saints here on the road to win and to cover. I'll go Saints 23, Vikings 17, so Saints -2.5 and under a 40.5. All right. This is one of those games where probably at the beginning of the season, I didn't expect us to be talking about the Houston Texans this late in the year, but here they are sitting at 4-4, traveling to the Cincinnati Bengals, who are 5-3, playing some of the best ball in the NFL right now. 1 o'clock kickoff on CBS. Bengals are a 7-point favorite, and the over-under is 46. Can C.J. Stroud continue that magic that he showed off last week and beat the Bengals, Kev?
I don't think so. It's super hard to go against the Bengals right now. They're playing really, really well. The same can also be said about the Texans, though, who've already exceeded expectations that they had coming into the year. Stroud looks like he's going to end up being the best quarterback from this prior year's draft, even though it still is a super small sample size, so that could end up changing. But the Bengals are just a complete team, and Joe Burrow's playing point guard right now, just getting everyone involved, distributing the ball really well. Obviously, the Bengals go as Burrow goes, but the defense has been playing really well too. They're number 1 in the league with a turnover differential of +9. And Jamar, it came out today or yesterday that apparently he's dealing with some back issues right now, but I'd imagine he ends up playing this week. And I think he has a big game here as he was pretty quiet against the Bills last week. So I'm going Bengals 27, Texans 17, Bengals covering the 7 and under at 46 hit it.
Shout out to the Texans, what I got to just say before getting into this game. I think they're one of the stories of the year in the NFL. I thought they would be kind of one of those frisky teams that finds themselves like 5-12, 6-11. As long as CJ Stroud looked pretty good, Will Anderson, D'Amico Ryans didn't really look overmatched, it would be considered a successful year. But sitting here at 4-4, you have to think that they're going to be trying to fight for a wild card spot down the stretch. CJ Stroud has been so good. He's already minus 500 to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year. So barring an injury, I think it's going to be his award to lose. And he also, I mean, it's still kind of high odds, but the 17th best MVP odds right now are 13-1. I mean, I'm sure if you told the Texans fans through 8 games that they'd be sitting 4-4, CJ Stroud would already pretty much have the Rookie of the Year locked up, and he'd be kind of in that conversation as the MVP so far. I mean, he's not going to win it just because of overall record-wise, but sitting at 4-4, I think that they would be very happy and consider this season a success. Stroud's coming off a 470-yard and 5-touchdown performance last week, which is pretty much just unheard of numbers. He's just another one of these talented AFC quarterbacks now that we're going to see battling out for years to come between, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow in this game, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Tua when he's playing well. I mean, this is just such a talented crop of players, and I think the league's in really good hands with these guys. But Stroud gets his first matchup, I think, against a big-time quarterback this week in Joe Burrow. He already defeated, actually, Trevor Lawrence. I forgot to mention him at the beginning of the year, but Joe Burrow, as we know, is a more established guy, I think, has had more playoff success, and the Bengals are really starting to find their stride, win 4 in a row. And while the offense will get the main attention of this team because of guys like Burrow and Jamar Chase, the defense, I think, has actually been the group carrying the squad. The Bengals are now 5-0 on the year when they've held their opponents to 20 points or less. And when the Texans score 20 or less on the year, they're 0-4. So look for that magic number right there around 20 in this one. But I'm going to take the Bengals at home to get it done and keep it rolling. I think after a 470-yard and 5-touchdown game, you kind of have to have a come back to earth type of moment. So I think CJ Stroud might actually struggle a little bit in this one. And I think the Bengals are going to get to him and show him some stuff that he hasn't seen yet at the NFL level. So I'm going to go Bengals 24, Texans 14, Bengals -7 in the under of 46. All right, 5th and final game of the week, kind of a funky one, but I think this one is actually shaping up to be one of the more fun games of the week. I think we're going to see some points here. It's the 4-5 Washington Commanders at the 5-3 Seattle Seahawks for a 4:25 kickoff on Fox. Seahawks are a 6-point favorite. Over/under is 45.5. You think Seattle will protect the home field here, Kev?
I do. I really struggled with this one, though. I think Sam Howell has shown the ability to play at a high level and put up points, like you said. I am going to go with the Seahawks, though, because they just need a bounce-back win after getting smoked by the Ravens last week. The Commanders have shown that they can give up big points when they face better offenses. The 2 best teams they probably played this year were the Eagles, who they let up 38 to. The Bills in the beginning of the year before things started unraveling, they let up 37 to. They also somehow let up 40 to the Bears, which is a little perplexing. But the Seahawks offense can play at a high level. It's just not always consistent. I think the Commanders' offense and Sam Howell keep it close here, but they're just not good enough to finish the job, and a late-game turnover seals the game, kind of like Sam Howell did against the Eagles a few weeks ago. So I'm going Seahawks 30, Commanders 27, Commanders +6, and the over at 45.5 hidden.
Yeah, I said it at the beginning. I think this is going to be like one of those games that we look back on when the season's over and like remember that Commanders-Seahawks game and how like wild it was. I think there's going to be like some weird turnovers, some pick sixes, maybe like a special teams touchdown. This game just has the feel to one of those. I think we're going to see a lot of points on the board in this game. But you touched on Sam Howell. He's actually been very good over these last 2 weeks. Over the last 2 weeks, Sam Howell has 722 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, leading Washington to a 1-1 record in that span. But he's quietly second in the league in passing yards. Like, I don't know if the GM and the head coach will be there next year for Washington with all the new ownership, but I think Sam Howell has at least deserved the chance to get another crack at a full season next year, maybe with a better offensive staff around him. I'm surprised to see the Seahawks, though, as a 6-point favorite in this one, just because of how inconsistent they've been, because they'll look awesome at sometimes, then very average, below average at others. So that's why I think we're in for like an unpredictable, exciting game. Wouldn't be surprised to see either team win, but Seattle's 3-1 at home this year, so I'm going to lean to them to win. Historically, they're a very good team under Pete Carroll in Seattle, but I do think the Commanders cover, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them go get this win. And at the end of the day, I could see either of these teams kind of competing for like a 6 or 7 spot in the NFC, but not make it much further than that. I think they're both pretty much as average as you get. But I do think this one could be big for a tiebreaker down the stretch. So a huge game between two NFC playoff hopefuls here. But I'll go Seahawks 27, Commanders 24. So Commanders +6 in the over a 45.5 hit. All right, now we get into our last two segments, the dog of the day and the lock of the week. The dog of the day being an underdog money line play we like. I'm going to go with the New England Patriots this week at +100. They're 1.5-point dog versus the Colts. International game in Germany. It just seems like a weird game. I feel like the Pats aren't that bad to fall to 2-8. Not many plays I like on the board this week as well. Several teams on the bye. You kind of have limited options. And I think the Colts, with Gardner Minshew, they're always going to be good for a few stinkers as long as he's playing quarterback. So I'm going to take the Patriots to find a way to win and go to 3-8 on the season here.
Yeah, my dog of the day, I'm going to go Cardinals +1.5 against the Falcons. So I take Cardinals money line. Kyler Murray's back. Interested to see how he does here. Going to be running around with his little legs a lot. Reminds me of SpongeBob a little bit. Playing potentially for his job here down the stretch too. If he plays well, I think that he can beat the Falcons then too.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm interested to see as well, especially if he starts winning games and kind of ruins the draft position that they have as well. But Kyler is definitely going to be a major storyline over the second half of the season. And then our lock of the week, our favorite bet of the week, we're going to go for my lock of the week to Sunday Night Football, where the Raiders and the Jets play. Back-to-back weeks, we get the Jets prime time. I'm going to go with the under of 36.5 in this one. Already locked that in on DraftKings Sportsbook. I feel like you should just take the Jets under in every single game as long as Zach Wilson's playing quarterback. They're 5-3 this year in favor of the under. It's a primetime game too, where the unders have just been smacking at an unreal rate all season. Aiden O'Connell playing quarterback for the Raiders. I just feel like in ugly games incoming, I feel like the Raiders got all this like buzz and hype around them with Antonio Pierce coaching now, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs kind of voicing their frustrations with McDaniels, and now we have Pierce coaching, and they were smoking cigars in the locker room after last week after beating a terrible Giants team. I feel like they're going a little too over their heels right now, so I think they come back down to earth a little bit, and we see like a 13-10 type game. So Raiders, Jets, under 36.5 is my lock of the week.
My lock of the week, I'm going Steelers -3.5 against the Packers. I think the Steelers defense is going to be able to get the best of Jordan Love here. Then the Steelers are going to do what they do, just run the ball, win the game late, and I think they end up covering.
All right, well, that'll do it for NFL Big 5 games of the week, the Week 10 edition, halfway through the season. A little bit more than halfway through the season now, and we're starting to get into the thick of it, where the game's going to matter more and more as we get closer to the playoffs. So, as always, thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and we'll talk next week.